What is going on, guys? This is Daniel, and one of the most interesting aspects of the playoffs is the pick on him dynamic, where the offensive team targets a particular player or position on the defensive team. And here's a good example. Here, the Celtics run a pick and roll, and they're targeting Serge Ibaka in the drop, allowing Walker to rev up and get to the rim. And so what we'll see in this video is how this is really a chess match between coaches, so I thought we'd look at the Celtics and Raptors series because of Stevens and Nurse. Let's get to it. So, one of the most interesting aspects of this series is how the Raptors are going after Kemba Walker's defense. Kemba is the one undersized guy on the Celtics that they can really target and take advantage of, and here we see it at the beginning of Game 3. Kemba starts on VanVleet, but after a dribble handoff the Raptors know the Celtics will switch. Kemba is on Lowry. Then the Raptors set a ball screen for Lowry with this preferred matchup, and Lowry gets an and one. And throughout the last few games, the Raptors have sporadically picked on Kemba with Lowry, and here's a set where VanVleet sets a ball screen, and you can see the advantage here. Tatum is on Lowry, but with one switch, now you get Kemba on Lowry, and Lowry here attacks and finds Ibaka. Now more commonly, the Raptors have ran this inverse pick and roll with Siakam handling the ball. So VanVleet sets a ball screen for Siakam, and against the bigger Siakam, Walker won't switch, he'll show out, and then Jaylen Brown will go under one, where he'll go under Walker, but to meet Siakam on the other side, he'll go over VanVleet. And here, it works out nicely for the Celtics. And as the Raptors have struggled to score in this series, this has been a play they've gone to, and here we see it does work, as Walker shows, and that allows VanVleet to pop for an open three. And this is a good concept from the Raptors to attack the Celtics show. So Walker looks to show towards the middle, so what VanVleet will do is he'll flip his screen so Siakam can drive left. This makes it very tough for Walker to show, and so now he has to switch onto Siakam. And while Walker does do a good job on this possession, this is the preferred matchup for the Raptors because of the size advantage, and Siakam eventually gets an and one. And according to my tallies, the Raptors have scored 1.18 points per play on 17 plays where Walker has been the screener's defender. So basically, the Raptors would be smart to continue to involve Kemba in these ball screens and make him show or switch. But give the Celtics and Brad Stevens credit, they did win this battle with the play, so we see it's 41 seconds left in the closed game, and the Raptors come out with a set to have VanVleet ball screen for Siakam, looking to target Kemba. But here, the Celtics have Smart on VanVleet and Walker on Anunoby, and so adjusting the matchups like this is smart. Stevens probably anticipated this play, and because of that, Smart can switch this ball screen with Siakam, and they're effectively able to hide Kemba. So those weren't the normal matchups for the Celtics, and possibly one reason Stevens knew this play could be coming was because in March, in a very similar situation, they ran a similar play with here Lowry ball screening for Siakam. So late in game, using Siakam as a pick and roll handler is something the Raptors like to do. Also, it should be noted that the Raptors have made it a point of emphasis to involve Kemba in a lot of off-ball actions. So here's a clip from Game 3 where VanVleet comes off a baseline pin from Siakam, and with Kemba on VanVleet, the Celtics decide to switch this screen, and it ends up backfiring as now the Raptors have the mismatch in the post. So good stuff from Toronto, but conversely, a smart team like the Celtics isn't going to make the same mistake twice. And here, in Game 4, the Raptors try to run this same play, and Walker isn't going to switch, he fights around the screen. Brown is able to stay with Siakam, and the Raptors get a mediocre shot. Now, on the other side of the ball, the Celtics have had success basically just attacking pick and roll coverage against the Raptor centers. So here, Tatum isolating against Anunoby wouldn't be a great play, but when he gets the ball screen, now Tatum can attack the drop coverage and he can thrive in that pocket of space. And the Raptors have mixed up their pick and roll coverages. Here for instance, in the pick and roll, the Raptors will trap Kemba, and while this does prevent Kemba from getting downhill, the Raptors are now sending two to the ball, which can be just as fruitful for the Celtics. But the Raptors have done a really nice job of hiding their centers and keeping them out of pick and roll action. And one way they do this is by changing up the matchups. So here, Siakam is on Tice and Gasol is on Ojale, and I believe this was after a timeout, so when the Celtics run their set to get into a high ball screen, now with Siakam and Anunoby, they can switch that. Now here, they trap, but we can still see the benefit of having Gasol on Ojale. He can be the low man and stay out of the pick and roll action, and because Ojale isn't a threatening shooter, Gasol can help as much as he wants. Another tactic the Raptors will use is the pre-switch. So here Tatum has it on top and he'll call for a pick and roll. And we see Gasol is on Robert Williams. So what the Raptors will do is pre-switch that and have Siakam take Williams and Gasol will take Grant Williams. And they do this to keep Gasol out of the ball screen. Now, the Celtics are smart. Robert Williams goes low and Grant Williams will come up to set the ball screen, and what they're trying to do is target Gasol. But the Raptors counter back by pre-switching again with Siakam taking Grant Williams, and now the Raptors can switch that high ball screen and most importantly, keep Gasol out of that primary action. And Gasol and Ibaka aren't bad defenders, and the Raptors need them out there for rim protection and rebounding, but when it comes to high ball screens, the pre-switch is often preferred, and here we see it late in a close game. Ibaka wants to stay low and out of the pick and roll, and we see the pre-switch as Jaylen Brown looks to set the ball screen, and here it works as Brown doesn't set the ball screen, and the Celtics have to rush up a bad shot. The Raptors only use this a few times every game, but it's a nice tool they have in their toolbox, and one reason they don't use it more is because it takes really good communication. So here Ibaka calls for the pre-switch as Ojale runs up to set the ball screen, but Lowry is just a bit late, and that leads to a bit of miscommunication on top, and Kemba hits an open three. And the last and most effective way I've seen them hide their bigs is with their zone defense. It's a bit of a 2-1-2 matchup zone, and I want to break this down in further detail later, but this is a great way to hide Gasol and keep him out of pick and roll actions. And the Raptors zone has kept them alive. The Celtics have scored .71 points per possession, which is terrible, on 52 possessions versus the Raptors zone, and the zone has done a great job of breaking the Celtics rhythm, and on this play we see it can keep Ibaka out of the high pick and roll, and also allow Matt Thomas to play because they're hiding him, and it's difficult for an offense to pick on an individual defender when the defense is in zone. Lastly, I want to talk about an adjustment the Celtics made in Game 4. So in the third quarter of Game 4, the Raptors had success in their pick and roll offense. Here we see Van Vliet runs the pick and roll, and then he nicely relocates out for an open three, and the Raptors opened up the game with their pick and roll play. And so Brad Stevens had a decision to make, and here are some of the choices he had. One option he had was to change nothing and simply challenge his team to defend better. He also could change the pick and roll coverage such as to a blitz. He could have gone zone, which is what Nick Nurse did a lot. He also could have tried different tactics to hide his center on the court, such as by changing the matchups or going to a pre-switch, but he went to something that Nurse hasn't really done in this series, which was to downsize and switch. So this was interesting. Faced with a similar problem, Stevens opted to go in a different direction from Nurse by removing his center from the court and playing Grant Williams at center and looking to switch everything, essentially playing like the Rockets and staying out of rotations. And it worked alright. The Celtics were a +3 in the 7 minutes this small ball lineup played, and while it didn't get them back in the game, you can see the appeal here as it can force more isolations and stagnant basketball. And if there's a lesson here, it's just that the strategy can depend on the personnel. Nurse values Ibaka and Gasol on the court, while Stevens was a little more willing to go small, and in general, the Celtics organization has deprioritized that center position. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.